Welcome to Boxing Info. This is your host, The Islander, and this is the recap show for the Marquez-Pacquiao #4 Summit in Las Vegas. Just a couple of things I want to go through here. Obviously, recap the fight and give you guys some guidelines on how and why certain things are the way they are with my channel. When I'm saying most of these things, I'm not saying them to my core subscribers, the people who watch the show in and out every week and make comments. I'm talking to the stragglers who just happen to find a video and decide to make absolutely asinine comments and nitpick at every little thing that's on there, who have no idea what the history of this channel is or my opinions or anything else. And you may have noticed, but on the preview video, I went ahead and cut off the comments because I'm not going to deal with getting emails 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with just absolute moronic comments on there. But I do want to read something that I got in my inbox from somebody after I do a preview of or a review of the fight. So as you all know, Juan Manuel Marquez finally got his win over Manny Pacquiao in emphatic fashion. As a matter of fact, I don't know of anybody who was on record, and I say on record, I mean in writing in a publication or on video, who predicted that Marquez would win by knockout, let alone one-punch knockout. I don't think I've ever predicted in any of the 5 years that I've been doing this on YouTube, ever predicted Marquez to win a fight by a knockout ever, let alone by one-punch knockout. So congratulations to him. He finally got his vindication from the previous 3 fights, in which case he felt he won all 3 going away. And I disagree with some of that. This fight, like I had predicted, started off different than the previous 3, especially the last one, in which both boxers seemed intent on ending this fight without any controversy. And lo and behold, as most of you could tell, Pacquiao fought with a lot more aggression, and Marquez was countering at a higher rate of speed and off to a faster start than he had been in the past. And most people, including myself, thought that this would basically lend to being advantageous to Pacquiao. Until he got caught with a very wide... Let me back up before I get into the details of the fight. One of the things I want to also speculate on is that I'm very harsh on HBO most of the time, especially Jim Lampley with those crazy glasses. But I think they did a very apropos job on this fight at pointing out a couple of key details. Number one was the strength conditioning of Juan Manuel Marquez, which was different from these previous fights. Both as well as the write-up before the fight with his strength and training conditioner that he didn't have before. Right before the fight, I think Jim Lampley said to Roy Jones, he said to him, "Look, Roy, we know that Juan Marquez is in great physical strength condition. Is he in boxing condition?" And Jones said, "Well, we're going to have to see." And whenever I've seen boxers do this before, who are either counterpunchers or boxers, it's usually led to disaster. Biggest case in point in my mind was when Hector Camacho Sr., may he rest in peace, took on Edwin Rosario, and he was chopping wood to try to develop more punching power and more strength, and he became more of a stationary target. But neither here nor there. So HBO aptly pointed out that there was a difference in Marquez's preparation for this fight, and he went to more strength training. So as the fight got underway, it was again nip and tuck, but fought at a higher pitch until Marquez landed what I deem for him a wild arcing right hand. It was not a straight right hand. It was not a clean overhand right hand. It was a wide right hand that it looked like Pacquiao saw coming, crashed off the left side of his face, and sent him down to the canvas hard. That is a key moment in this fight that has me wondering why in 30 9 years of Marquez's existence, why he didn't resort to this type of training earlier, because that one punch basically set the tone for the fight from that point forward. And more importantly, I had seen him land many more cleaner, harder right hands that he was leaping into Pacquiao with. From, you just take the highlight reel of their entire first fight, there were many more right hands that he threw that were cleaner, sharper, and looked like more body into them. And Pacquiao withstood them. Pacquiao's head got snapped back all the way up to the ceiling in the first fight. Nothing had had an effect on him like this did. So the fight goes on. Pacquiao was obviously hurt, and they continue the fight. And then in the 5th round, where the fight is fairly even to that point, Pacquiao lands a straight left hand, which, served nothing more to me than a rangefinder, and basically Marquez tips over and touches his left glove to the canvas, and it's correctly called a knockdown. Now, the action was so fierce in that round, when I take heat and controversy for scoring, if a round is fairly even, how do you score that round? Because there are people like Dan Rafael who went right to giving that round to Pacquiao for a 10-8 round. I'm not so certain that the action after the knockdown, obviously Pacquiao ramped up his offense, and it looked like he took over the fight. So I aptly scored that a 10-8 round. But, and I probably shouldn't have brought this up, but in any event, they go into the 6th round, and at that point the Pacquiao machine is in full gear, in full speed, and Marquez is breaking down. Early in the 5th round, after the knockdown, he had his nose bloodied, he had a cut across his nose, his face was starting to be showing the signs of swelling up, and he had gone into more of a retreat mode, and Pacquiao more into the aggressive mode of a heat-seeking missile. So 6th round, more of the same continues. It almost looked like to me that at any moment Pacquiao was going to either put him down again or start to end the fight, because his offense was ramping up when Marquez's was slowing down, and then it happened. And another piece of, I guess, credit I'll give to HBO is, again, to Lampley, is that when the knockout happened and Pacquiao leaned in with a lazy right jab and missed, and Marquez, whose head was on Pacquiao's right side, and let the right hand go. I had made mention in a comment on the previous video that he hit a target he wasn't really looking at. He let the punch go looking at a target where his head was way behind the punch, and Lampley was aptly correct in pointing out it was very reminiscent of Sergio Martinez's knockout over Paul Williams. Very similar. I think that this punch, though, was a lot more in lines with a classic one-punch knockout, and for those Marquez fans out there, the punch was very reminiscent, although the scenario not the same, as Rocky Marciano's right hand on Joe Walcott, Jersey Joe Walcott, because the thing is, that punch didn't travel more than 6 inches. And another good part of it for the Marquez fans was that Pacquiao was basically falling straight into it, or rushing straight into that punch, unlike Marciano, who had Walcott against the ropes. But in essence, it was with the same velocity and the same strength and the same power and the same distance, just a short, straight, they call it an overhand right. It was, either way, it was a straight overhand right that traveled no more than 6 inches, that crashed against Pacquiao's face and pitched him face forward. And I don't understand, the officials these days. Not that he was going to get up, Pacquiao, but whatever happened to a fighter being awarded a 10 count over somebody? The second a guy gets knocked stiff cold, they don't even bother counting anymore. They just call it off. And yeah, I know some of you liberals out there are going to yell, "It's the fighter's safety, the fighter's safety." Look, he was down for 7 minutes. Another 10 seconds ain't going to kill him. And this same scenario, applies to Paul Williams when he was flattened by Sergio Martinez, and Jermaine Taylor when he was dumped in the corner by Kelly Pavlik. I mean, nobody's arguing that Pacquiao was going to get up. I'm just saying that this wave of change across boxing has become very disheartening to us purists. And you bleeding heart liberals out there can cry all you want that it's the safety of the boxers. Blah. Yeah, if the safety of the boxers, if there's that big of a concern to you, they'd be wearing headgear and about 16-ounce gloves. But neither here nor there. The fight was over at that point. And by far, this is the signature career win in Marquez's career. Now, I want to talk about some of the possible fallout from this fight before I go back to reading this. You know what? Maybe I will go ahead and read this this email this person sent. All right, this is from user named Divinchicha, DivinitYcha, and he writes me an email that says, "Great videos. Thanks for another well-analyzed video talking about the preview show. I personally feel that this fight will be completely different from the past 3 fights." Well, guess what? You were right. And, basically I agree 100%. I can't recall which video it was, but it was a video which you broke it down of how to beat Pacquiao. It made completely sense to me. I remember you saying something about smaller fighters will have somewhat of an advantage against Pac-Man. I agree in all caps. I don't think many people realize it, but Pac-Man does his most damage to fighters whom are bigger, stronger, and slower. Alright, that's the end of that paragraph. I truly believe that the only chance Marquez has against Pacquiao is to come in the fight smaller and focuses more on his speed. However, Marquez chose another path. He has bulked up and looks to be slow on fight night. If Marquez's game plan is to go in and look for a KO, good luck. Manny's chin has been tested with far more heavier punches than Marquez. This is a key point. I think the only reason why Marquez does well against Pac is because of his size and counterpunching style. I think bulking up was the wrong way to go. I see this fight playing out like Pac versus Cotto. First few rounds are going to be evenly close, but after that it's all downhill for Marquez. This fight will be complete shutout after the 4th round for Pac. Call me crazy, but this fight will just be like the Cotto fight. I'm going with Pac, unanimous decision, 9 rounds of 3. Let me know what you think. Okay, instead of responding to you, I'm actually letting you know what I think. And the situation is this. Most of what you said is true. I would agree with it. When I made the preview of this fight, I thought that same exact thing. As far as Marquez bulking up, I'll keep my fingers crossed because I know he's been very vocal in the media saying that he is has no worries about his post-fight drug test and things like that. And you know me, a person's innocent until proven guilty. But a critical thinker would actually maybe come up with a set of questions which would go something like this. Why would Manny Pacquiao be hit by shots of Miguel Cotto, maybe 1 or 2 from Joshua Clottey, from Antonio Margarito, from Shane Mosley? The list goes on and on. From De La Hoya, he got caught with a left hook, left uppercut in the 7th or 8th round of the De La Hoya fight. Ricky Hatton, David Diaz, but Juan Manuel Marquez, who started his career as a featherweight, is the one that knocks him down in the 3rd round with a very wide-arcing right hand, and then knocks him out cold in the 6th round. There's many answers to that question, as one of you astutely put on one of my videos that Pacquiao's legs are not what they used to be. His fast life, his life in Congress, his life being a celebrity may have caught up with him. The intense training that he has done for all these fights, moving up in weight, has finally maybe caught up to him. And of course, a large part of it comes to Marquez's training for this fight. I'm not going to spread any speculation on this, but like I said, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that his tests come back, just as the way they should, negative. And there's no reason for me to believe that they aren't. The critical thinker here is going to ask, why is a 39-year-old, he's not much younger than me, able to all of a sudden bulk up and change his physique this late in his career and still maintain the same technique that he has maintained over the course of his 20-year professional career? Listen, stranger things have been done before in boxing. Nobody would have thought Roberto Duran was going to knock out Pepino Cuevas and Davey Moore in back-to-back fights back in 1983. So there are people out there speculating things that I'm not going to give credence to them. I'm just saying anybody could be knocked out with one punch. Anybody, anytime, anywhere, any place. That's not the issue. My issue is that knockdown in the second or third round, I think it was, where Marquez just arced the right hand, and it looked like Pacquiao saw the punch coming, hit him on the side of the face, and down he goes hard. Was something to raise questions in my mind about. He had been hit by far superior shots than that in his career against Marquez and against other fighters, and never left his feet. As a matter of fact, the two-punch sequence, which was a right hand and a left hook in the second fight, in the second round of the second fight, was far more devastating, with Marquez leaping in with the left hook that had Pacquiao's legs basically gone, and he barely was able to stand up. Far more damaging than that punch was, and yet Pacquiao was knocked off his feet. I don't know. And then the other, I don't want to lend to conspiracy theories, but at the same time, right after the Timothy Bradley fight, all the Mayweather nuthuggers came out and said, "Look, I know why he lost Pacquiao, because he was off the juice finally. He tried going off the juice and this and that." I'm thinking to myself, what shred of evidence do you have for this? Well, let me play devil's advocate. If they're right and I was wrong, the result that happened here would lend itself to that, would it not? But like I said, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, so I'm not going to lend any credence to that. I just find the whole, not the knockout, mind you, the knockdown early in the fight kind of strange. But neither here nor there. Now the question is Pacquiao, on the downslide? He's looked kind of less than stellar in his last three fights, and the answer is consistency is starting to wane. And what's the fallout from this? Will there be a fifth fight? I'm lobbying for a fifth fight. We finally have the first definitive conclusion of any of these fights. There's no doubt who won. There's no doubt why. There's no doubt of the result at all. Marquez won fair and square, clean as can be as far as I know, and basically it's a concrete win for Marquez. Does Pacquiao deserve a rematch? Will Marquez make any more money fighting anybody else? And what would happen if Pacquiao decided to pack it up and retire? Well, a nice little fight out there for Marquez would be a fight with Timothy Bradley, or the winner of Danny Garcia versus Ab Judah, or any number of guys like Lucas Mathis and any of these guys at 140. Because I think Marquez coming into the fight at 143, showed that he really is basically grown into the junior welterweight division more so than the welterweight division. And proof of that, for those of you who are going to watch this video who really know not much about boxing, you just know about either Marquez or Mexican fighters, are going to say, look, he just knocked out 147-pound Pacquiao. Yeah, he also was shut out and embarrassed by 147-pound Mayweather too at the same time. So, whether he belongs in this division or not, I don't think so, unless he's fighting somebody like Timothy Bradley or Devin Alexander, who came up from 140. Not the big natural 140-pounders. And I know Mayweather moved up from 130 to 135 to 140 to 147, but he is a naturally older fighter who's been settled into the welterweight division, much the way Oscar De La Hoya settled into the welterweight division. And I think that if Marquez doesn't fight Pacquiao, a fifth time, I think a fight with Timothy Bradley, or I don't even know who really owns promotional rights to Marquez right now. I don't know if he's been a free agent just breaking away from Golden Boy to sign to get these fights with Pacquiao with Top Rank, one fight at a time. I don't know if Bob Arum has residual rights over Marquez. For Pacquiao, obviously the only fights he has in front of him right now are rematches with Timothy Bradley, rematch with Marquez, preferably Marquez. If you were a fan of Pacquiao, you'd want to see him get his pound of flesh back from Marquez. Although I don't think the demand for a fight with Bradley is really there, because most observers, myself included, felt that Pacquiao won that fight against Bradley going away. That's going to do it for this show. The fights on the undercard. One thing I was going to mention is Gamboa had a little bit tougher time with the Filipino fighter than I thought he was. showed his vulnerability again. Some of that attributed to him being off for 15 months. 50 Cent, is now his promoter, who's working nicely with Bob Arum to get him on one of Bob Arum's cards, and all that. The other thing I wanted to mention that I haven't mentioned is since I made the last couple of videos, I did not mention the passing of Emmanuel Stewart a month and a half or so ago from some type of cancer. He will be very missed. And also over Thanksgiving week, Hector Macho Camacho Sr. proved once again he was in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people, and became collateral damage in what was a drug deal either gone wrong, or a drug deal that was one person ripping off another person, because the guy they were after got riddled with bullets, and Camacho caught one in the process, and basically was put on life support, and his mother took him off life support system, and he basically passed away. Arturo Gatti was also in the news, as he was basically voted into the Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. I'm very much positive that Hector Macho Camacho in his first year of eligibility will be granted a place in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Although, when guys like Nassim Hamed and of England, the undisputed featherweight champion for many years back in the 90s, and Sat Chitolata, who was a long-time WBC flyweight champion from Thailand, aren't in the Boxing Hall of Fame, I take what they do with a grain of salt. That's going to do it for this episode of Boxing Info. If you're going to make comments, feel free to. If you're going to make stupid ones, feel free to be humiliated and blocked. I mean, my patience is about as thin as this paper. So I'll see you guys next week. Thanks.